Now we've got a little bit of an overview of what Pandas is. Let's start to code it. So to begin, we're going to load up a terminal or command prompt. Now this is the workflow we've been through a couple of times now, but we're going to keep going through it with each new concept to make sure we kind of get it down pat, because that's what we're doing, right? We're just practicing and practicing and practicing. So if we try to access Jupyter Notebooks, which is our workspace where we want to use Pandas, if we run this code whilst we're in the base environment, it's not going to work. So we need to activate the environment that we've created. So if I go conda env list, this will show me my environments. And in my case, I want to go to the sample project folder that we created in the beginning, because that environment has all the tools such as matplotlib, Pandas, Jupyter, NumPy, etc. We're focused on using Jupyter and Pandas in this section. So to activate that, I'm going to type in conda activate. Then I could copy this here and put it down there, but we're going to practice typing out commands in the command line because that's what you want to get proficient and used to typing these sort of things. ML course sample project /env. And we'll hit enter. So now that has activated this, and you can see we've changed from base to having this environment activated. So if I load up a Jupyter Notebook now, by typing Jupyter Notebook, it's going to open up my browser. Beautiful. Now, because I'm in my home directory, I need to look into my desktop and then ML course, sample project. There we are. So now we're in the sample project folder within the Jupyter dashboard. Now this is the project that we made in before, in a previous session where we created example notebook. So to begin exploring Pandas, we're going to go new, Python 3 notebook. We'll give this a name. We'll call it Introduction to Pandas. There we go. Hit enter. And so, to begin with Pandas, the first step is to import Pandas as PD. We've seen this a few times already, but this abbreviation PD is just a short version of Pandas. It saves us from having to type Pandas continually. So we'll hit Shift and Enter. And this is just going to tell Python, because we're running Python 3, hey Python, go and get the Pandas tool for us because we want to use it. And now the first thing to know about Pandas is there's two main data types. I'm writing that little hash. This is a comment, and I'll hit enter. The first one we're going to look at is series. So if we go series equals PD series, and now remember, where the style we're going to go through these concepts is by looking at them first before discussing them. Because remember, if in doubt, run the code. Now if I make a series here, the command pd.series takes a Python list. So I've got a few car brands in there, so we could really call this car brands if we want, but we'll leave it as series. So let's hit Shift and Enter. And to view our series in Jupyter Notebook, we'll type in series, hit Shift Enter. So now we can see we've got like a single one-dimensional column of information. And that's the main thing you need to know about series. So series equals one-dimensional. So one column. Let's practice making another one. We'll hit escape and create a new cell. So what about this one? We do some colors. Colors equals pd.series. We'll go red. We'll go blue and white. Excellent. So if we go underneath here and we'll put colors underneath so it displays it. Shift enter. Beautiful. So now we've got two 1D series, one-dimensional, when I say 1D by the way, one of car brands and one of different colors. So now the difference between a series and a data frame, now a data frame is two-dimensional, and data frame is far more common. I'm saying column because data frames have columns. A data frame is far more common than a series, because oftentimes with your data, you'll have more than just one single column. So let's create a data frame. We'll call this one car data maybe. Car data equals pd.dataframe. And now dataframe is a little bit different because it takes a Python dictionary. So I might go car make. And then the beautiful thing about data frames is that we can create a data frame out of series. So we've got series here. So car make, this is the key, this is the value. And we'll go color. And we'll give it our colors series. So down here, we'll go car data. Beautiful. That is our first data frame. Now, this is so exciting, right? Because I love data frames, and it's a beautiful thing to start seeing your first ever data frame being made. And now, if you have a look here, making a data frame from scratch can kind of be a bit tedious. So what you'll usually do is, rather than creating your data frame from some series, you're going to import data. So we'll type that down here, import data. And now, where would you get data? Say, for example, we wanted some car data. Where could we find that? Well, if we go up to this beautifully created, pre-made spreadsheet, and by the way, all the resources to what we're working on will be in the resources section, we can see that this is a spreadsheet called car sales. And now, how do you think we might get this into a Pandas data frame? It's all right if you don't know the answer, we haven't been through it yet. But this is what Pandas is great at doing, right? You'll have some structured data, maybe in a spreadsheet or something, which could be anything, right? This is car sales, but you could have transactions, you could have patient records, something like that. But we want to, rather than manipulate the data in a spreadsheet, we want to start using code, specifically Pandas code. So the first thing is we have to import it. Now, for this car sales data, the way we could do it is to export it. Now there's a little download tab here into comma separated values .csv. Now this is a very common data storage file type, and Pandas works beautifully with it. So if we were to export this spreadsheet data as comma separated values, let's do that. That's going to save down here. Now I've already imported this into my sample project folder as carsales.csv. So let's see how we would import that in Pandas. So car sales equals pd.readcsv, and then we're going to type in the file name as a string. So carsales.csv. Now the beautiful thing about Pandas, or Jupyter Notebooks in general actually, is that you can use tab autocomplete. So let's try that out. So we're going to press tab. There we go. And we've got some options here that's going to pre-fill that. So we don't want the missing data one. We'll have a look at that in a future video. But let's click that. There we go. carsales.csv. So all this is doing is saying, hey, Pandas with PD, read this CSV file and save it to car sales. So I'll hit Shift Enter. Now let's have a look at that data frame. Beautiful. So now we can see this is just the exact same information that's here in a Pandas data frame. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that because it's now in a Pandas data frame, we can take advantage of all the functions that Pandas has to offer in manipulating, viewing, and changing this data. All right, let's have a quick overlook of what the anatomy of this data frame is, because different places refer to different things. So we'll go to this slide, the anatomy of a data frame. So we'll break it down. On the left-hand side is the index column. Now, Pandas data frames, like Python lists, start at 0. So if you had 5 rows in your data frame, it would only go up to 4. Remember, it starts at 0. Now, this here is a row. So all these values here, including the index, is called a row. And these ones here are columns. And a row is referred to as axis 0. And a column is referred to as axis equals 1. So if you ever see a Pandas function in the future, which has a little parameter called axis, if it's saying axis equals 0, it's meaning a row. Now, if it's saying axis equals 1, it means a column. I got confused by this in the beginning. I was just like, just tell me if it's a row or column. But some functions use axis 0 or axis equals 1. Now, these individual values here are data. You can have different kinds of data types. We'll see those in a future video. And the headings up here in bold are column names. So these are the main things you need to know about a Pandas data frame. You can take a screenshot of this or something like that. It'll be in the resources section as well, but if ever you hear me referring to different terms around here, you can always have a look at the anatomy of a data frame and know what's been talked about. So let's go back to our notebook. And so once you've imported a data frame, what you might want to do is make some changes here and then export it. So let's see how we would do that. Exporting a data frame. Now, of course, we haven't made any changes to ours just yet, but we're going to export it anyway to see an example of how to do it. To export a data frame, we take the variable of the data frame, car sales dot to CSV. So to import it was read CSV. Now we're going to call this function car sales dot to CSV and then pass it a string name of what we want to call it. Import exported car sales dot CSV. Now you could also do car sales dot to Excel if you wanted to export it to an Excel file, but since we're only really working with CSVs, which is kind of a universal data type, you might not have Excel on your computer. CSVs you can run almost anywhere. We're going to export to CSV. So if we hit Shift and Enter, where do you think that's going to go? Let's go back up here. We look in here. Exported car sales.csv a few seconds ago. Beautiful. So now if we wanted to create a new variable, exported car sales, just to demonstrate, pd.readcsv, car sales, no, we want to go exported car sales. So all we're doing now is just re-importing this file here to see what it looks like. And then we'll go exported car sales. We'll fix up this one as well. Shift and Enter. Beautiful, we import it back in, but there's some unnamed column here. Now this is a little trick of what toCSV does. Because there's this index column here, if you don't put in index, I think it's equals false. If you don't put in this, it'll export it with the index as a column. So let's see what happens if we go there. Index equals false. Now we're going to, all that's done is re-exported the file. Then we're going to re-import it. There we go. It's going to index it as it gets imported. So that little parameter there, index equals false, is go export this data frame and don't worry about throwing the numbers there. But I think that's enough for now. We've looked at the main takeaways from this is that Pandas have two main data types. Series, which is a one-dimensional column. So there's only one column here. Data frame, which is the far more common type, which is two columns, or two-dimensional, sorry. So you've got rows and columns. But the more common way of importing data into Pandas is to read something like a CSV file. And then once you've made changes on this or manipulated in some way, you can export it as a CSV file. All right, I'll see you in the next video.